Hello beautiful people, today we're going to talk about how long before you get promoted in tech, the amount of time it takes for you to get promoted if you work in a tech company, and we'll compare it to other companies so you understand the difference. Do you ever wonder why some people get promoted in 12 to 18 months and others just don't? It's not about luck, I think it's about mindset. Tech is fast-paced, but that doesn't mean that promotions are automatic. Let's talk about how to move with intention. If you're in tech and you're unsure where your next promotion stands, let's get you out of the waiting game. By the end of this video, you'll understand how the tech industry approaches promotions differently than other industries, and it does. You'll learn why your mindset, not just your skills, are absolutely key to you getting promoted. And you'll discover what it means to design your career instead of just waiting for someone else to tap you on the shoulder. In tech, speed is possible, but it's not guaranteed. And here's why there's a difference. Tech moves fast, but promotions go not just to the smartest people, but to the people who take ownership of the results, think systematically about the business, and build trust and relationship across the organization. In tech, promotions can happen in 1 to 2 years. They're fast-growing companies, so there are more job openings. They're smaller orgs and they're newer, so there's less bureaucracy, and your impact can be more visible. In more traditional companies, it can take 3 to 5 years to get promoted. Oftentimes, tenure and approval chains are what determines the promotion, the amount of time that you've been working with the company, and your value is often measured by the amount of time you have served, not necessarily by the impact that you can have in the organization. Neither of them is wrong necessarily, but in tech, because of the speed, there are more opportunities to get promoted more rapidly. In my book, The Innovation Mindset, this is my slightly worn and loved copy, and you'll see a link for it down below. But in my book, The Innovation Mindset, I talk about the idea of common sense. And common sense is, think about a fish in water. A fish doesn't necessarily recognize that they're swimming in water. We swim in our common sense in the same way that a fish swims in water. We don't see it. We're not aware of it. We don't pay attention to it. It's just there all of the time. Through this video, I'm going to talk about the idea of common sense, because if we can shift away from old common senses that don't serve us to a newer common sense that does serve us, and we can do it consciously, it'll put us in a position to be able to move and get promoted much faster. So common sense is our generally understood set of assumptions that everybody around us, and us included, tend to just take for granted. We don't question it, we don't ask about it, we just operate from it. If we can change how we think about our common sense, we can also change how we think about our future. When we think about our mindset is also part of our common sense because it kind of gets derived from it. So when we think about our mindset, we want to think about not when will I get promoted, but how can I put myself in a place where I am adding noticeable value to my team, my department, my organization. By making that shift, what you'll do is you'll stop making it about you and you'll start making it about the value that you can add to others. And once you start doing that, you start getting noticed, you start building relationships, you start delivering on projects, and you start building trust. And those are the critical foundations for getting promoted in the first place. So instead of waiting for a promotion, if you ask, what commitments have I made? Am I delivering outcomes and not just completing tasks? So when you think about the difference between outcomes and tasks, you're looking at a task is something I've been told to do that someone else knows what is determined as success or satisfaction for the customer in that particular case. But an outcome is something that you own and that you're aware of, and you're the one who's designing the value of that outcome. There's a big difference between those two, and it's worth paying attention to. And the other question is to think about is, how do others feel when they're working with me? Am I easy to work with? That doesn't mean that you have to become a people pleaser or you have to do everything that everybody tells you, but you have to be mindful of the promises that you're making and efficient about managing those conversations with other people. So your moving from someone who takes orders and does what they're told to someone who's an innovator and adds value, and someone who your boss can continue to give progressively more responsibility to. Taking on progressively more responsibility sets you up for getting promoted. So let's look at old common sense and new common sense. In the old common sense world, promotion happens because you've been there a long time. A promotion happens because you know the right people. A promotion happens because you've done what you've been asked to do. The common sense in there, the long-held belief, is that if I do my job, I keep my head down, I don't get myself into trouble, I will eventually move up through the system. In new common sense, which is what I'm trying to introduce to you here, the game is more about how do I make myself aware of how value gets created inside my company? How do I make offers that allow me to be able to add more value? And if I do that progressively over a period of time, I am building the relationships of trust based on the commitments that I'm delivering on. And I'm delivering on them not just directly to my boss, which you absolutely should be doing, but also to other people who my boss has made promises to. And I'm doing that in full transparency and full awareness with my boss. So you're moving away from, if I stay long enough, I will get promoted, to what kind of offers can I make that will add value, that will allow me to be able to contribute to the company in a way that others can see the impact. And not see the impact because I'm blowing my own horn, but see the impact because I'm delivering value to them and making real promises and real commitments to them. So lots of technical people go into organizations assuming that they're being hired exclusively for their technical expertise. And in some instances, there is a level of truth to that, but that's not enough. That's not all there is. So if you go into a technical organization and you go, if I deliver brilliant technical work, I will be noticed and I will be promoted. You may, but you don't have any level of real input or real control over that. If instead you go in and you educate yourself around what is the value that has been created in the organization because of the technology, how is the technology considered valuable, how is it used, how is it deployed, who else gets involved with it, who else is engaged with it, what does it mean to bring that technology to market? Those are some of the questions that if you begin to ask those questions and understand those things, you'll be able to make very powerful offers in the middle of that won't be just about your technical skills. It'll be about your leadership skills and your business skills and your ability to be able to understand how the business creates value. When I talk about offers, one of the most important things about offers is that the offer has a customer, because we tend to make offers the same way we make requests, which is they show up more like wishes. So lots of times you'll be in meetings and people will go, oh, it'd be great if somebody could get us a magic whiteboard that would allow us to be able to take notes. Well, everybody in the meeting's all looking at each other and going, yeah, that's true, it would be great. But nobody necessarily stands up to do anything about it. Or it'd be great if we were recording this meeting so that we could see the notes later on. So those sort of wishes are actually someone asking for something to happen. That's a request. And if you don't have someone who's going to deliver on that request for you, it never happens. So when you sit in meetings, it's really worth your while to start paying attention to the number of times that you and other people make wishes and they look for someone to step up and deliver on those wishes. That rarely happens. Sometimes you have an incredibly nice, supportive person who gets burned out delivering on all of those wishes for other people. But if you want to be an effective deliverer on some of the value that you can make when you make an offer, it really serves you to be able to have an internal customer for those offers. And an internal customer is someone who would consider what you're offering valuable and who wants you to deliver it successfully to them. So your internal customer is anyone who you can make an offer to who will consider that offer valuable. So lots of times when we think about customers, we think of them as being external. We think of them as being someone who is buying something, because we've all been brought up in a consumer society that teaches us to believe that someone who buys something is a customer. That is absolutely true. I'm not saying it's not for 1 second, but take that inside a company. Someone who is valuing something is a customer. Someone who can help you design the value of something is a customer. Someone who you want to make an offer to is a customer. So with that in mind, think about the kinds of offers that you might make to a customer, someone who you designate as a customer inside your company. The customer can be your boss, The customer can be a peer in another department. The customer can be a peer of your boss. The only thing I would caution you to be absolutely sure of is make sure your boss knows when you're making offers. Make sure you've run them by your boss and that she or he is in agreement with you that that is valuable and a good use of your time and something worth doing. So let me give you some examples of different kinds of offers that you might choose to make. You could offer to the person who is responsible for a broader initiative. You could offer our broader project. You could offer to fulfill a small part of that and take responsibility for a small part of that you know you can get your arms around. You can frame it in terms of how it's going to be able to create value for that person. Now let's just assume it's your boss in this case, because that's easy and that happens a lot of the time. So your boss has a big project. You see a small part of the project that hasn't actually been assigned to anyone yet, and your boss is still talking about it and thinking about it. If you put your hand up and say, I'd like to be able to lead that part of it, and if I could get help from this person, 1 or 2 people is usually a good number, then I can deliver on it within this time frame. So you're having those beginning conversations around making an offer with your boss. That's a great start. The other thing is to offer to mentor someone. The cool thing about it is what we teach, we learn. So when you are mentoring someone, it actually gives you an opportunity to not always be right and not always have the answers, because we know that inhibits our learning, but to be able to see how your advice and your guidance is being enacted by somebody else, and to think about what that means in terms of what you know, what you understand, and how you move within the company. So offering to mentor someone is something that is very valuable, and you can look at it in terms of how you extend your own, maybe your own technical ability. You could mentor a new person on the team. You could see that they have technical skills that are comparable to yours, and you could look at how you help them onboard themselves to using all the tools that the rest of the group uses, and to help them feel more supportive and hit the ground running faster. There's always a process somewhere in the company that frustrates people. So whenever I ask people to identify a process that frustrates them, they all smile, because everyone has their pet process that frustrates them. There might be a process somewhere within your team that frustrates you. It's just kind of friction. It annoys you. It delays you. It slows you down. It irritates you. So anything in a process that produces friction for you more than likely produces friction for a lot of other people as well. And one of the ways to make yourself more effective and also to enjoy your work more is to remove as much of the friction as you possibly can. Obviously, you're never going to fully get rid of all the friction. That's a physical impossibility, but you can get rid of a lot of it. You can make an offer to reduce the friction in a small process that irritates you, knowing that it'll make your day easier and more joyful, knowing that it'll make the days of other people easier and more joyful, and also knowing that it'll allow you all to get things done faster, more efficiently, and maybe more accurately. So identify what that process is and offer to improve that process. Now, you're not going to know the answer going into this, and I wouldn't expect you to, but what you can do is you can write down why you think you find it frustrating, and you can begin to correspond that to maybe interviewing 1 or 2 other people on the team and see if they have similar frustrations. And then you could put together a group of 2 or 3 people over lunch and go, hey, how is this impacting us? How is this frustrating us? What would it look like if we changed it? What could we change? And what I found is super useful, particularly with small local processes, is you have enough of a powerful feedback system within your own team that you can actually pilot different ways of solving the problem, because you may not get it right the first time. And part of what you're doing in here is you're offering to your boss to solve a problem, and you're doing something valuable for the team, but you're also teaching yourself on the fly as you do it how to do process improvement over time. The 4th option you could consider for making offers is offer to take accountability for something that is meaningful and has clear timelines and conditions. So as your boss talks about projects or talks about initiatives, you'll automatically identify certain areas that you can take responsibility and accountability for, and you can just put your hand up for that and say, I'll take that. It's already somewhat designed, it's already somewhat prescribed, you can just put your hand up for it. That one is probably the least valuable, because really you're just taking on more work, I would go with the ones that are more offer-based, because it gives you an opportunity to be able to learn. It is unexpected and something valuable that is coming from you that your boss will be delighted with. Just taking on extra work that needs to be done, never really been my favorite thing. And usually it's something that's designed by somebody else, so it's not necessarily a fabulous fit for me. So how long does this take, which was the original question we started with, is it's going to depend on how fast and effective you are at making and delivering on offers. Regardless of whether or not you're working in a tech company, which is fast-paced and fast-moving, or you're working for a more traditional company where the cycle times of promotion are a little bit slower, making offers is going to speed up and accelerate your opportunity to be able to get promoted. So I recommend that you help yourself by learning how to make offers. Go and dig through this. I'm using this as a basis for all of these videos that I'm making, and I would love to be able to help you learn how to make powerful offers in a way that allows you to be able to get promoted, regardless of whether you're in tech or whether you're in a traditional company. So bottom line is, you don't need to guess where your next promotion is coming from. You can have an impact on that, and you can be part of designing it. One of the ways to get this process started is to take my Get Promotion Assessment, which is getpromotedassessment.com. Down below in the links. Take that, be brutally honest with yourself, see where you stand, see where the gap is, see where the opportunities are for you to be able to make offers, take more responsibility on, and set yourself up for promotion. Let us know how it goes.